Imagine for a second that you're making a film and this pile of wood is your material and this is your story. A while ago I uploaded a short documentary which you might have noticed was not entirely factual. And this is important because traditionally in the documentary space, the format is defined by truth-telling. When you're making a documentary, you can't lie. You might actually disagree that it was a documentary at all if you've watched it. But now remember, we have all this material and only this much story to tell. Somehow, we need to package all of this information into a tiny digestible piece that can be viewed by an audience. So naturally, the first question is, how do we get all this information across without distorting the truth? And quite simply, you can't. You can't, right? You have to make choices that without a doubt, to an extent, will influence or distort your story. So then the better question is, in what circumstances or under what conditions is it okay to lie? Can you lie in documentary filmmaking and get away with it? And just before I proceed, I need to make a disclaimer that this is my approach to storytelling, and it doesn't need to be yours. But you might learn a thing or two, so let's get started. So first things first, what even is truth? And I'm not joking. We can start with something easy like the sky is blue. That's true, right? Now, what about what direction the wind is coming from? In absence of, clear markers like a flag or something, it might be difficult and we might actually disagree on where the wind is coming from at any given moment. Now, what if I ask you how you're feeling today? Can you always give me an easy, clear, factual answer to that? And what if I asked you to tell me the meaning of life? What's the factual answer to that? You can see the line between truth and lies can become very blurry, and maybe sometimes there is neither truth or lie. There's neither a right or wrong answer, especially when you're dealing with people. So now I'm going to walk you through the 3 most common scenarios that lead me to implement deliberate lies in my documentaries. First, when you want to protect the subject, you might hide the face, distort the voice, change the location in which you're shooting, and that might have many reasons. Maybe your subjects fear retaliation for what they're saying. Maybe they're simply uncomfortable speaking in front of a camera, or maybe you have the feeling that they're not telling you the whole story and that maybe taking the pressure of a camera away will give you more detail and more depth. In this shot, for example, you can see that I hit my face and only revealed later on that I was actually interviewing myself the whole time. To me, that is truth-telling because I wanted to take you on this journey of an inner monologue, but only reveal later on that it was an inner monologue, to give you the impact and to help you think about what I'm saying from 2 different perspectives. To me, that is more truthful than just giving you the words in my head. Secondly, sometimes you just need to keep viewers interested. Someone told me once that all editing is lying, and in a way they're right, because every choice you make in the editing room affects what viewers are seeing and therefore what they believe. Remember, we have all this material, the movie can't be 4 hours long, so what choices are we making? What words, phrases, content are we removing from the story deliberately in order to make it digestible? This all comes down to human connection and understanding, emotional intelligence. If you understand what your subject is trying to get at, you can reduce what they're saying by 90% without significantly distorting what they actually are saying on camera. The entire interview sequence with myself in this short film probably took 2 hours to record, but in the end I maybe used a couple minutes. This is because I know the main points that I was trying to get across, which is easy if you're interviewing yourself. You have to pay very close attention when you're interviewing other people, and when in doubt, check with them afterwards to make sure you're capturing their words accurately. But in doing so, you can omit large chunks or even slightly change the order of their words if it means that their point becomes clearer to the audience. Lastly, visual truth sometimes just doesn't cut it. Often you can show the action being described literally, but that doesn't capture the emotion that the person is going through. So then what do you do? In my film you could see that I used some quite experimental techniques to communicate the emotion that I was feeling. Many people would call that fiction and not documentary. To me, Used in moderation and in conjunction with traditional documentary techniques, it actually elevates that and communicates a different kind of truth, an emotional truth. To me, this is a very exciting part of documentary because we are slowly embracing more experimental techniques like animation, hybrid fiction and documentary films, and these help to really communicate this emotional element that often gets lost in literal visual storytelling techniques. So here you could see the emotion that I was feeling, this power, freedom, is this heroic feeling that I got from playing video games as a child that I can now replicate when I'm out hiking. And that's part of the reason why I film all my YouTube videos in places like this and not at home in my office, because this is where I feel inspired. I couldn't have captured the same emotion by just filming myself with my backpack sitting on a mountain, because the feeling in my head is associated more closely with these images than the literal images of me sitting there. To me, that is emotional truth-telling. So, this was just a short introduction to the complexity of truth-telling in documentary, and it might help you decide when to lie in your next documentary film and when not to. Anyway, I gotta get up this mountain before it gets dark, so see you next time.